TBRI.
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 TOVD.
TBRI.
TBRI, Trust-Based Relational Intervention.
TBRI is an attachment-based,
Trauma-informed intervention
that is designed to meet the complex needs
of vulnerable children.
TBRI uses empowering principles
To address physical needs,
connecting principles for attachment needs,
and correcting principles to disarm fear-based behaviors.
While TBRI is based on years of attachment, sensory processing, and neuroscience research,
the heartbeat of TBRI is connection.
Hello, Molly and Casey. Thank you guys both for being here so much. I'm really excited for today's episode.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Okay, let's start with some introductions. So, Casey, the people have heard you before. You were on, I think, season 1 of the podcast and maybe season 3. We'll make sure to connect to those in the show notes. But since they kind of know a little bit about you, would you share something that you've done fun recently?
Yes, I will.
Caught you off guard.
If I had read the notes, I would have been prepared. Let me think. Something that I've done fun recently. Oh, over the weekend, like professionally or personally?
You know, whatever.
Okay. Well, personally, the weather was beautiful over the weekend, and I went and walked around the Trinity River on Saturday and Sunday by myself, just listening to a podcast, getting some sunshine, and it was glorious.
I love that. And it was probably the TBRI podcast, so I feel good about that
Of course. Of course it was.
I should
Yeah.
also welcome everyone to our husky. Some of us have colds on this episode, so enjoy our lovely voices. Dr. Molly O'Mealy, would you please introduce your lovely self to our listeners and share a little bit maybe about how you came to know about the Institute and TBRI?
Sure. Hi, I am Molly O'Mealy. I have a PhD in experimental psychology with an emphasis on development. And so I've actually heard about the Care and Purpose Institute all throughout my PhD and just reading empirical articles and being familiar with the work that they do. And then I was a visiting lecturer at a small liberal arts school in South Carolina, and a job popped open at the KPICD, and I jumped at the opportunity and then went and got to tour the campus with Dr. Call, and she led me around for a couple of days and tolerated all of my questions and kind of my fangirling of the Institute. And I've just been hooked quite literally ever since.
I love that so much. I think Casey may have given me my first tour as well. So she's tolerated both of us, which gold star for Casey. Okay, so you guys are both, well, actually, Casey, will you tell us your sort of role at the Institute, and then Molly will have you share yours too.
Sure. So I have 2 titles, so fancy. The first one is with the Department of Psychology. I'm a associate professor of professional practice, and then the second one is through the KPICD, and I'm the associate director of education. So within those 2 roles, I get to teach students and am the program director for our undergraduate and graduate programs.
Okay, so a lot of student action. All of your stuff is pretty much circles around students. Yes.
It's more important that you ask her what she doesn't do, because Casey has 1,000 hats and she balances and wears them all incredibly well.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to ask because I don't think we have anything for the list. So, Molly, how about you?
I am an instructor at TCU. There is a line of tenure track professors who do research, and I am fortunate enough to have teaching be my full load. And so I teach child development courses for the Institute, and I also teach some developmental psych classes for the psychology department.
Oh, so you do both.
Yes, I've kind of got a foot in both departments, but the KPICD is housed in psychology, which is kind of confusing. So it kind of just depends on what our needs are for the students.
Her home is here.
So, so claimed by the
Yes,
KPICD. Good luck to the rest of you. That's
I
awesome.
I take it
Um,
willingly.
uh, Fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about these babies that are what, 18 to 20 something, that are part-time in your care in some regard, shape, or form. It's an unusual age. From the perspective of development, let's just say they're developmentally on track. What are some things that we should expect from them behaviorally, interacting with, those of us that are in a parenting role or some sort of support role? What should we be expecting around this time of life? Molly, you want to go first?
Sure, this is actually one of my favorite topics because I've done some research on emerging
Okay.
adults, which is
Mm,
technically psychologically the age range of our students, pretty much 18 to
okay.
26. And it is a newish age range because it's not the same across cultures. So emerging adulthood, especially in the United States, is characterized of seeking independence and kind of identity development, but
Hmm.
still oftentimes under the security of parental influence and
Hmm.
parental financial help and support. So
Uh-huh.
it's this interesting in between of,
As the parent of one of two of these, I feel what you just said very deeply.
yes, absolutely. So they're very much capable. They ask great questions. They are idealists during this time period. They have a lot of drive and excitement for the future, but they also need, developmentally speaking, structure and support and
Hmm.
some empathy and understanding because this is
Hmm.
also a time period for mistakes where mistakes are safest. And so they
Right.
take those, and I think it's a good time.
Yeah. So can you say really quickly about how you said, this is kind of how it is in the US? Can you speak to what other cultures are seeing during this developmental time?
Sure, absolutely. It kind of is, well, it is going to be culturally and regionally specific,
Hmm.
but in some cultures, adulthood starts at 13. At other
Hmm.
cultures, adulthood starts when you get married and start a family. At some, it's 18. So it just kind of varies worldwide. But
Hmm.
we have this kind of buffer period, especially for children in the or individuals in the United States who are very much under the supervision of their parents still in this
Hmm.
time period. So they're adults by legal age and by um, like government purposes,
Right.
but they still very much have a need and depend on their
Right.
primary caregivers.
Right. I can remember the first time that my daughter needed to go to the doctor. And we recognized very quickly that we hadn't done the proper paperwork for me to be able to talk to the doctor. And I was like, she's a baby. And the doctor's like, she's actually not. Like, come here, old lady. Let me explain something to you, kind of thing. So, Casey, do you have anything to add to sort of those developmental expectations?
Yeah, I was literally in my 11 o'clock class today. We were going over the four skills for meaningful relationships from Jude Cassidy, and we were talking about, the students' strengths and their areas for growth. And anyway, we started talking about in there, many of them said that they had a hard time with autonomy and negotiating their needs. And then that led to a conversation about how that is completely developmentally appropriate at their age.
Mm,
Because it's for oftentimes it's their first time away from their parents or from their family.
hmm.
And so they're figuring out, they've lived under this structure and these rules of other people. And so
Hmm.
for many of them, it's their first time away and they're figuring out who they are, what their values are, what they
Hmm.
believe, what they like to do, what calms them when they don't, maybe their dad is there, helps regulate them, but what do you do when he's not there? And
Right.
they're really turning to friends. They start doing that during adolescence, but they're really turning to their friends and figuring that out. So I think, and that goes hand in hand with negotiating your needs, is that kind of led us to that conversation in class because when you're still figuring out who you are, oftentimes you don't know what you need.
Right.
And
Right.
so we were talking about that and talking about how like they were also confusing autonomy with being alone. And I
Mm.
thought that was really interesting because I was going around walking through the groups and they were saying, "Oh, well, I think I struggle, a lot with autonomy because I always will choose to go out with my friends." And so we had to talk about how that doesn't mean like you can still choose to go out with your friends every time they ask, but autonomy
Right.
means really knowing who you are and what your
Hmm.
values are and all of that. And then how that leads to negotiating their needs and having these
Right.
meaningful relationships because they have to figure out who they are and what they need. And it's going to be
Yeah.
different what they need at college than it was when they were in high school.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like your capacity to make independent decisions
Hmm.
exists in full
Yes.
for the most part, right? Like you are off living on your own.
Yes.
And so that comes with a different level of responsibility too, right? Like my parent isn't the one helping me make these decisions anymore. So oh, it's so fascinating. And it's such a tricky age. I know for me, it has been one of the most confusing seasons of parenting because when I think they're like off and trekking along, then I might get a distress phone call of like, I don't know what to do, which is absolutely fine. I'm delighted that they're calling me. I just get confused because that wasn't exactly my experience either. And so then I'm like, well, how much do I say to them? And how much do I coach them and guide them? And how much do I say, well, just stop that or just start that? And how much do I just sit back and sort of like be like the things in the bowling alley, the bumpers that they put up to kind of guide them. Maybe they'll just stay in between these. I don't know. It is a tricky time. So,
So tricky.
for parents, do you guys have any sort of suggestions about like how do we see the need or meet the need to understand, you know, how much do we get involved? We're no longer, hopefully, I don't know, you guys are professors, so you might say like, Sarah, you're not the norm. I mean, I'm not reaching out to a professor asking about my kids' grades. I'm not, maybe there are some parents doing that, but what are, oh, you both, okay, for our listeners, they both nodded yes with a lot of emphasis in their nods. So what are sort of the boundaries we should be keeping? Like where do we let them sort of flop and where do we come in and say like, okay, well, the bank account was overdrawn. That's a hard lesson to learn. Let me give you a little bit of money you know what I mean? Like, is there a way that you would say we should balance um, kind of how we're parenting during this season? Because I still want to be there, right? I'm very much still a support to the girls, but I don't know. This
Sarah,
might
I'm
be a
with you.
personal question.
I, Sarah, I'm with you. So I wish we had callers, like callers, please call in and give us your advice. Because I have one in college and I'm figuring that out right now. But I have been working with college students for a long time, and I can tell you, at least from the outside looking in as their professor, what feels like it is developmentally appropriate. And I got an example. I was teaching a university life course for first year students, and I was meeting with them individually. And one of the students came in, and she'd been in college like 6 weeks or something. And she said, I was asking her, what's going well? How are you balancing academic and social life and all of these? And she said, well, my parents have the, Life 180 app or Life 360 app, or I don't know
Yeah.
what it's called, and she said, and they monitor it all the time. She said, I cannot leave campus to go to Chipotle with my roommates. And I was like, wow, that
Oh,
sounds really hard. Yeah. And then I had another student who came in literally after her, and she said, it was going pretty good. And she mentioned, yeah, my parents have the Life 360 or whatever app. And she said, and it's great because it saves me from having to text them all the time. Because they can just look, if they're wondering where I am, they can just look at it. And so to me, after those two conversations, I was like, wow, those are different parenting styles. One is
uh-huh.
providing scaffolding and support, and it's coming out in a really positive way for their daughter. And then the other
Mm-hmm.
one was kind of more authoritarian and
Mm-hmm.
like controlling, and it wasn't going so well for their daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So it always makes me think like they were both doing the same action and the same behavior, but they were using it in completely different ways. So it makes me think about like how we do with little kids. We scaffold them until they can feel success on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like for my college kid, I mean, I'm the 4 skills of meaningful relationships are on my head because I just taught them. But like I go over those with him and talk about like, what are you good at? What are you still figuring out? This is what I'm good at. This is what I'm bad at. Like, where are my opportunities for growth and scaffolding those things and like how, sometimes it's called anticipatory guidance, but thinking about what's coming up for them, like having to figure out roommate situations and giving them those questions and saying like, "Ooh, what are you going to do if you have a really messy roommate? How could you work that out with them?" And it's kind of providing them the conversations and the skills, but it goes back to the same thing we do with littles. It's we're teaching them proactively, we're scaffolding them for the things that are coming up, we're setting them up for success. I think some of the things to avoid are doing the things for them because then they don't have it, if it fails, guess who they're going to blame? You.
Yeah.
And if they,
Yeah.
and if
Turns
they,
out.
yeah, turns out. And if they succeed, they don't feel successful. They don't take credit for that. So if you're just guiding them and helping them to make their own decisions, then if they fail, that's on them and you're there to support them. And if they succeed, they get that like that boost that look, I can do this, right?
Oh,
I can do this.
so good. Okay, mic drop moment. It is so tricky though, right? Like in the moment, right? From the time they're itty bitty, we don't want our, and Molly, I know you have the sweet little babies and one on the way, and I just I think like I can remember from the time my girls were itty bitty, I did not want them to experience pain. I didn't want them to experience any adversarial experiences because that was outside of what my dismissive self knew was okay. I didn't know how to deal with the feelings of that, and I still don't want it, but now I can see a path through versus so like I think in some ways like if our attachment style also bumps into this desire for our kids to be okay 100% of the time, which is not an achievable goal, right? Then we're really going to struggle in these moments with how we interact with our kids for the best opportunity for their success. Oh, tricky. Oh man. Okay. Um, so, I like I said, I have babies in this age group. And and sometimes their needs are truly, truly much larger than what is happening in the classroom or at school, right? And sometimes there might be a perception that that is the case. Um, I think one of you said like it's a highly passionate age, so everything is a thing. Um, how do you guys balance the need for structure and nurture when both things are happening? So maybe they need some more structure, like this is actually not a moment that's the end of the world. You missed class, your homework wasn't turned in, or you missed an assignment or whatever. How do you balance that with especially an age group where we're looking towards more independence, but they still need that scaffolding? Molly, you lay down the hammer.
Out of the two of us, I would probably be more likely to lay down the hammer. But once again, that comes from my attachment style.
Right, sure.
I think one of the best things that I have found, I've been doing this for I think 12 years,
Well,
is building the nurture into the structure of the course. Um, so when it comes to opportunities of students being overwhelmed and life getting in the way of academia, it's bound to happen at one point or another. There are things that we can do, like from a syllabus standpoint of, all right, we're going to have 12 in-class activities this semester. You get to drop 2. So when you're sick, when you're overwhelmed, when serious life events are happening, you know that you get to drop. And so there's not even questions to be asked. You will not get points off for that. We have that nurture built in. But then once those 2 are used up, then we can line up a little bit more of that structure and say, okay, we gave you these absences. You also are an adult. It's your choice if you want to miss class, but this is where that structure comes into play. So it's almost like preventative strategies from we can approach it from a syllabus per standpoint. And I think also this group is particularly interesting because they're post-COVID. So high school expectations are very different than university expectations. And I think the best thing that I have found, especially for Gen Z, is explicit instructions. And I used to be a little bit more like, oh, kind of figure it out, or do turn in work you're proud of, which I like that
Mm-hmm.
kind of openness, but I wasn't meeting their need of desperate striving for perfection and seeking approval and needing to succeed, especially with our population of students. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was
Mm-hmm.
not providing them enough structure in that. So just setting explicit instructions, maybe providing an example here and there, really
Mm-hmm.
makes them feel comfortable. And then even something is like, I have a pretty similar structure. On Tuesdays, we do this. On Thursdays, we do this. So there's predictability
Mm-hmm.
in that. I don't know. I just feel like some of the things can be preventative because we know life events are going to happen and we
Right.
know there are going to be challenges and we don't want their academia to suffer, but we also
Mm-hmm.
know that they're adults and they have to figure out what's important and figure out that balance
Right.
themselves.
So talk about proactive planning, right? Like that's a big one. And Casey, I think it was you that actually said in when we would talk about the empowering principles, to build out your schedule, but build in a wild card. I think that was you. Like it's going to hit the fan, right? So you're going to have to be able to pull out your wild card sometimes and say like, I know I told you we were having spaghetti for dinner for our littles, but we're actually, pulling through the drive-through because mama didn't have making spaghetti left in her today or whatever it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I mean that's kind of that and on at the next developmental level of saying like I've built in your wild cards. When you use them, they're gone.
Yeah.
So how about you, Casey? I know you are high nurture.
I am very high nurture and I have learned how to be high structure over the
Good.
many years I've been teaching because without it, they don't grow. I mean, and
Right.
that's, goes back to that
Hmm.
Karen Purvis quote. But I saw a meme the other day from a college professor that said the way that she was saving lives was she changed her 8 a.m. class to a 3 p.m. class, and she's had a lot fewer grandparents who have died during this semester than she had last semester. I was like, there you go. But what Molly was talking about, I mean, is she does such a good job of balancing structure and nurture. And I think, and I do some of the same things. I build in the assignments. But one of the things that I've noticed that I haven't noticed in years past, but I've been noticing it last semester and this semester, is students will come up to me and say, can I miss class for this? Or can I leave early for this? And it's part of that scaffolding autonomy,
Hmm.
building process again and saying, and I always say, oh, what are you going to leave class for? Yeah, okay. And have you, missed any? I will walk them through the steps of like how they should think about this. But
Hmm.
at the end, I say, okay, you're an adult and you get to choose whether you do this or not,
Yeah.
right? You get to
Yeah.
make this decision, and I never tell them yes, it's okay, or no, it's not okay, because it's again supporting them on making this decision and
Right.
helping them figure out what goes into it.
Right. And I
So
think kudos for you because I never would have gone to ask a professor like, "Can I leave early?" I would have been like, "Deuces, man, I'm out. Like, I
same,
got, I got somewhere fun to be, and this isn't that much fun."
same. Hey, are you saying my class isn't fun?
No, no, I've never been in your class. Actually, I think I would probably really enjoy it, and I'm also have my whole brain now, so I would have made decisions differently. Maybe. I don't know. I
Yeah.
should probably shouldn't claim that. Um, um, what do you guys? What, I want to know. So when you think about your students and they move on and they're doing great things, and what gives you hope about what you see them going and doing? Because I'll tell you, let me just interrupt before I even start. I think y'all have a heavy burden because, see, your work is my retirement plan. So, because we need some people to come in here and pick up when we're all of retirement age. And so I feel like you're raising that next generation of people that are gonna come. So no pressure whatsoever. But what maybe gives you and me hope that this is an opportunity, this is a possibility?
I have so much hope,
Okay.
and it comes from the fact that um, our students are learning who they are, what they believe in, and how to treat children and families with respect and curiosity and
Hmm.
compassion and truth while they are in college. I mean, most of
Hmm.
our students have a better sense of self than I had when I was 30 or
Hmm.
35. They have a drive in them to make the world a better place. they have, not only do they have the drive and the motivation, but they are learning and getting equipped with the skills in order to do that. I mean, they're going in fields very diverse, from occupational therapy to nursing to child welfare, to education, all social work. And they're all going to have skills to equip families and to look at children through a compassionate lens and have tools to help them. I mean, and in their personal lives too. They're making decisions that are really a lot more mature than when I was in college. They know who they are. They're using these tools with their roommates, with their friends, with their parents. They're becoming self-aware, which, wow, I did not have that, right? I mean, they're understanding themselves and how their childhoods have affected who they are today. And so I just think that their awareness and their being equipped with what to do and their compassion and motivation gives me a lot of hope.
Ugh, I love that. Dr. O'Mealy.
Casey did it so eloquently.
I know.
I would also add on that I think in recent semesters in particular, I have gotten more and more why type questions. So I'm going to lecture or I'm going to present the information and I'm going to tell you what the research says. And they don't just take it, they want to know why. So then we have incredible discussions and they are not just rote memorization on the concepts from class. I know that they're going to have it be ingrained in them because of the way that the institute is set up and how we have opportunities for them to apply it. But just by asking those types of follow-up questions of why do you think this is, or what systemic structure has it where this is why it the way it is. And I just haven't gotten that before. And I don't know if it's specifically TCU students or this generation, but it is so beautiful because it keeps me on my toes as well, which is also exciting. But it creates the best discussions. It creates the most empathetic and understanding students who are critical thinkers. They're not just taking information, they're going to try to figure out why things are the way that they are, how they can impact it in a positive way. And I just don't think, like Casey, I don't think I asked those types of questions. I was like, what can I do to get an A in the class? And okay, this is the information I need to know, and I'm going to remember it for a multiple choice exam, and that's going to be that. But these students are taking their understanding, their trauma competency, and then they'll take it into nursing, like Casey was saying. They'll take it into occupational therapy, where they know how to interact with their clients because they asked those why questions. And it's really inspiring.
Yeah. It makes me wonder if somewhere along the line we've developed a generation that's allowed to be curious. Like I don't feel like we were really allowed to be curious. It was like, do what you are told. This is the absolute kind of thing. And maybe we're like edging to the other side of that. And now we have this generation that's allowed to be curious. Can I back up for 1 second and ask you guys, how do you feel like COVID has impacted? Because now the kids that are there, right, were in high school when COVID hit, right? And maybe eighth grade too. That's a lot of math for me, but right. How do you feel like you saw a difference? Do you see a difference? Oh, Molly, you got pointed at.
I know. I was looking. My finger didn't point high enough to Casey. I did it back to Casey. Ooh, it's a really good question. I think students care more. I don't know how to say it. They value their education. They value the classroom in a way that I didn't quite see before. Specifically the classroom and the discussions that we can curate through being in the same space. I think it kind of is dependent on what the high school structure looked like. Because in some instances, it's been a whole bunch of positive outcomes from COVID. But then every once in a while, you may have something of I did the assignment, but I forgot to turn it in. Can I still get points for it? Because that's what they were allowed to do in high school. There weren't deadlines. There wasn't any structure during COVID. And some of those rollover effects of, once again, that emerging adulthood being the in between of no structure in high school and then in the working force where there's maybe less leniency and less
Mhm.
flexibility. So trying to find that middle ground. I don't know. It's not quite as drastic, I think, as people think it is,
Mhm.
but there's a shift somehow. I don't know if I can
Mhm.
always put my finger on it.
Okay. Casey.
I think the difference that I have seen is that students are they seem more engaged.
Hmm.
Um, and complementary to what Molly said, like they appreciate the classroom, like getting some in-person classes and
Mhm.
not everything online. They're also very much more technologically savvy,
Oh,
you know.
yes.
They
Didn't think about
know,
that.
yeah, like so that is really good. And I think again, it's about scaffolding them in between high school and the workplace, like Molly was saying. We've got to figure out, okay, they're all coming from way different high schools and way different
Mhm.
experiences and things. So how do we, set the structure, set the parameters, but still be able to meet needs on an individual basis?
Mhm. Mhm.
And doing that is really, about having deadlines, having structure, but also if they mess up, giving them a chance.
Right. Right.
Like it's not punitive. It's like, okay, you forgot to turn that in, we'll turn it in.
Right.
Right. But if that becomes a pattern or if that keeps happening, then we're going to address
Up
it,
the structure.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I've decided. It's fine. Okay. Either we're going to wrap up. Do either of you have a favorite story related to kind of what you've seen a student go and do or what they've learned through the process of a semester or anything like that? Casey, are you getting tears in your
oh,
eyes?
I always. Um, the students are just incredible. And the way that they give their time and energy and effort to giving in the community and everything. I'm trying to think of who I want to talk about
Hmm.
because there's so many that I could talk about. I'll talk about one of my current students right now. Her name is Allie, and she is a volunteer at Cook Children's.
Mm.
And she is a volunteer for an organization called Once Upon a Room, where they go to decorate hospital rooms for children who are in long-term stay. And she has her hands. She volunteers at ACH Child and Family Services, leading
Goodness.
nurture groups with some of the programs there. She has high academic achievement. She is in my internship class and many other classes, but she is just doing so much, but doing it so well.
Hmm.
And she has created opportunities, I think, for engagement and relationship, not only for herself, but also for other students. Today, for example, she's hosting a lobby event at Cook Children's where kids who are in the hospital can come down and do some arts and crafts. And
My
I
gosh.
know she got like 12 other student volunteers to come and help with, to help with that. So she's not only, I think, giving herself really cool experiences and really
Hmm.
unique opportunities to practice TBRI, but she's also encouraging others and building a community and, and just doing it really with a giving heart and a
Wow.
really smart brain.
Man.
Yeah.
Okay. What was her Allie?
Allie, yeah.
You go, Allie. Man, outshining all of us put together.
Well, I know. I worry about her too sometimes. And I
Right,
talk
right.
to her about that and I say, you are doing so much. Like,
Hmm.
what, get some help, ask for help when you need it. And she is
Right.
today there was an event she couldn't make and she got two people to step in with her or for her. And so,
Oh,
we're
that's one of the
also,
four skills.
that's right. We're
Yeah.
also working on trying to minimize burnout and compassion fatigue and
Gee, man, write a paper on that, man. Molly,
There's so many, and I know
you
people
know,
say that, but we have such incredible students with child development. Um, I think two come to mind, but I can focus on one. I don't know how much time we have, but we have a student, are we sharing names? Just first names? We have a student named Madison, and Madison comes from a collaborative family of adoptive and bio children. And her family is big into TBRI. She came to TCU with the Institute in mind. And just coming to TCU specifically for the child development program and what Karen has set in stone and what Dr. Cross has set in stone is just incredible. And then she is doing family law. So I think Casey and I have gotten to write letters of recommendation for her, and she's gotten into her first 2 law schools that she applied to. And it's just so exciting to see people who are so passionate about child welfare and improving the lives of kids everywhere, that she saw what TBRI and what the Institute could do directly for her family, was so inspired. She came to the Institute, has been so inspired. She's volunteered at camps. She was picked out of a whole camp as like a 21-year-old to be a behavior helper at her camp, like to instill behavior curriculum at the summer camp. And then now is going into top family law programs in the country. So inspired, so invigorated to go and make incredible change. And it just kind of feels fulfilling for me selfishly in that I get to see this story come to fruition and then see her go and succeed. And becoming a completely autonomous adult outside of that emerging adulthood phase. So it's been amazing. And I could go one more real fast in that we have very few males in our program, but we're working on getting more males. And one in particular is from the DFW area. He's incredible. And he volunteered at the Parenting Center in Fort Worth, which is an incredible nonprofit. And through his volunteerism, got a job right after undergrad, and now works on a grant and goes in to elementary, middle, and high school classes and teaches about sex ed and teaches about all this incredible information that kids need to know early on. And he was just so inspired through volunteering, and they of course loved him, and now he's employed there. So it's just so fun to see it all come together.
I mean, it really is incredible. And I feel like, we do post these on YouTube. So if people could see y'all's faces when you talk about these students, it is just so delightful. I don't remember feeling like, I'm an old lady now, so I don't remember feeling like my professors were like honed in on like caring that deeply. Maybe they were, and right, I was in my own little world, but I think you guys are a tremendous gift to them, as they clearly are to y'all. And I know I said it at the last practitioner training. We had some, our students get to go to practitioner, and some of them were sitting off at their little table. And I just said, raise your hands. And I said, if y'all are looking for employees, here they are right here. So if you're out there and listening to this and you're like, man, I need a great person. We have folks graduating that are eager, and they are world changers, and they have been perfectly educated to meet the needs that are existing within our communities, whether it's in law or the hospital or social work or wherever. And that's a direct reflection of y'all's work. Thank you both so much for being here today on the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
The TBRI podcast is produced by the Care and Purpose Institute of Child Development at TCU. To learn more about TBRI and the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit child.tcu.edu/podcast.